Hi guys, Anna here back for DSSBreak. I'm here with Rochelle March, and we're going to be with you in just a minute. We're just going to hang out while you guys will get the notification to join, and we'll see you back here in just a second. All right, guys, I think we are good to go now. Hi, everyone, and welcome to our latest DSS break. I'm live here every Thursday to bring you the latest news and great interviews in a 15-minute break. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Anna Anderson, CEO and founder of Formulated by, the home of the Data Science Salon. And I'm streaming live from our beautiful HQ here in the Design District in Miami. Today, my special guest is Rochelle March, and I know Rochelle actually from her days at S&P, and now she's the head of ESG product at Dun & Bradstreet, and she specializes in impact analysis related to carbon, water, and sustainable development goals, and in applying machine learning to ESG products. And she also teaches data analytics in Bard College MBA's program, sits on the advisory board of USL Technology, a minority and women-owned sustainable building and engineering company, and is a mentor for fellows in the Environmental Defense Fund's Climate Corps program and for STEM talent participating in New York's Academy of Sciences Junior Academy. That's a lot of things, Rochelle. How do you get all of this done? This is like super impressive. Please tell us kind of a little bit about yourself and maybe your version of your background and how do you actually find the time to do all these amazing things? And thanks for doing them.
Well, thanks so much for having me, Anna. It's awesome to be here. I guess my advice is to switch focus often, like a bicycle wheel, and that way you get to where you're going, but you still get to hit that spoke, so to speak.
I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, I'm the head of ESG product at Dun & Bradstreet. I just joined recently in April. And prior to that, I was at S&P Global, where we met previously. And there I worked on ESG innovation analytics. And for those who aren't familiar, ESG is environmental social governance. So it's other types of data about companies other than financial data, like their energy use, their emissions, their supply chain, labor issues or lack of, and so on. And so this has become an important part of the financial decision making because a lot of those factors will impact companies and their performance. So that's been really fun. And before that, I worked in sustainability strategy consulting. So a little bit on the other side, working with companies, helping them develop trajectories and goals and initiatives to help improve their sustainability. And before that, I just did a lot of different types of things around public health and climate change, green buildings, so socially responsible investing. And before that, I was actually in cancer research and then pivoted into sustainability through school. So it's been really fun. And my work at S&P and at Dun and Bradstreet is very data focused, using a lot of machine learning and different techniques to obtain different data types that often are very unstructured and alternative. And that's been super satisfying and interesting. As you know, that field is always expanding and a lot going on. So very fun.
Yes, a ton going on, and that's such an interesting background. It's, so it sounds like you were kind of in healthcare before, and then you got into sustainability, and then you got into data. So that's really interesting, because everybody I talk to has some kind of a different story, and nobody really starts with data. You know what I mean? Like they get to the data, right? Because that's an important part of things. And no, that's awesome. And that the work that you're doing, and thanks for explaining a little bit about ESG, because I don't think a lot of people are aware that there is other requirements or things that companies are measured by. And I guess maybe you could talk a little bit more about like how important is that really? Like, and how large does the company have to be really to have that, to be measured by those, requirements and things?
Yeah, definitely. So ESG is predominantly focused on publicly traded companies. So big companies, lots of scrutiny, lots of information about them. And that's generally the focus. But if you think about it, that's a very small fraction. It's like less than 1% of the amount of companies that are out there. And
Right.
what we're seeing, and what we're seeing is that asset managers and institutional investors that are invested in all kinds of companies are really adopting ESG. So there's really only a matter of time until those public companies need to understand their supply chain, need to understand their private investments, and so on. And until the private equity and supplier and small company universe are also expected to think about these things. So ESG's been around for, depends how you look at it, but, solidly for about 20, 30 years. And I would say today it's really mainstreamed. And the main drivers behind that are that it's just a reflection of cultural values too. People want to know that companies are doing something about climate, about resource scarcity, obviously diversity now and equity and so on. But there's also a financial element. Now that there's enough data, and enough standardized data that you can analyze it using traditional and data science techniques and the like, you see that companies with good ESG performance tend to outperform those that don't. This isn't always the case, but
that was another question that I had. So thank you for answering. That makes sense.
Yeah, I like to think about it if you are a future-oriented company and you are tracking these things and managing them and reporting on them, you're probably pretty well managed. You've got good administrative powers, and you're probably just able to be resilient and adaptable to market changes. And if you are not aware, that's when things will catch you, and that's where you see low ESG performance as well. So intuitively it's a lot. ESG covers a lot, but if you think about it like that, I think that helps to tie those elements together.
Yeah, no, 100%. Thank you so much for explaining that, because I'm sure that there's a lot of people that weren't sure how that's measured and such, but that makes a ton of sense. And you're right. I think now that's more important than ever with, the global warming and everything going on. I think it's important that companies are giving back and making a difference. Maybe you could talk a little bit about what you're going to tell us at your session at VB Transform, because I'm really, really interested to hear a little bit about that as a little tease.
Definitely, yeah. So really excited to present soon there. And Dun & Bradstreet, Dun & Bradstreet's a really old company, actually. It's almost 200 years old. Abraham Lincoln was an employee, which I thought was cool. And,
really? Oh my God, that's an awesome fact.
Right? I thought that was really neat. I think Theodore Roosevelt was one too, and Ulysses Grant. Yeah, it's really funny. But the company started on trying to provide information on credit. Our company's viable for working with. So it's a
Mhm.
natural progression that they would also want to get into ESG as that next level of transparency and intel. So I'm working there to help develop an ESG product that is very decision useful. You can benchmark it against financial performance. And what's nice is there's a lot of data to work with at DNB. They cover 400 million companies in the world, which is crazy. So that too, you've got a much larger sample size for all of those data people out there, and you're able to really come out with some distinct analytics of how to use that data. In the past, ESG data has been a little noisy, a little random. So applying those techniques now are going to really help refine it. And so my talk will be generally about that model, the ESG model, and then some more specifics on the NLP, the natural language processing techniques we did to gather that data and to organize it. So,
Cool. Yeah, NLP. I was going to ask you if you're using that, but it sounds like that's a technique that's definitely being really widely used right now. I know it's been around for a long time, but maybe you could talk a little bit about the use case that maybe a tiny bit more about the use case that you're going to discuss at the VB event, because I'm super interested in
yeah.
natural language processing, and we have a lot of listeners who are really involved in that as well.
Definitely. So, as people are aware, there's tons of text data out there. There's reports, there's news, there's social media. And this is where natural language processing is a real benefit. It's the algorithmic programs for dealing with textual analysis. So for ESG, which covers so many different topics, ranging from
Right.
how much water are you using to, how many women are on your board to, do you have any major, are you on sanction lists, et cetera. It helps to have a wide swath of keywords and relationships to bring that all together. So
Right.
we're using deep learning and NLP across thousands, if not millions, of news channels, including public data like company filings, government data, and the like. And we're using those embedded vector models to get that data and to get data that's related to other similar words and similar phrases, and to understand, is that a negative element of ESG or positive? Because you could have renewable energy in a sentence, but is it good or is it bad? So that's where the relational components come into play, and where you need to rely on those deep learning models to make sense of that. So we're using that to analyze the text, apply the tagging to our ESG models and structures, and then to understand, what is it telling us, and what is it telling us. So I'll go into
Awesome.
detail more about that in the presentation, obviously, but that's kind of a quick summary.
No, that's really interesting. It's just there's just so much that you could do with that. I'm sure you're having a lot of fun, because there's a ton of interesting information that could come out of that. So check Rochelle's talk out at our event on July 12th, and you could go even deeper into what they're doing over there. And it sounds very interesting. And the last question that I'm going to ask you is, what would you recommend to folks that are just getting into the space, or, especially women?
Sure.
What would you tell them? Oh yeah, I'm interested in data science. Where would you start?
Sure, yeah. Well, I think that follow what you're interested in. I had a funny trajectory getting into data science and ESG. Was in cancer research. Before that, I was in landscape architecture, which is the design of gardens. And over time, I found that data is a really powerful tool when dealing with this topic. So for me, it was topic first and then data later. But I think, be learning agile, if you want to know something, go learn it, learn how to do it. Make those friends in the companies that are also doing what you're interested in. And I think something that Anna and you do really well, and that others that I've met at Data Science Salon, is there's lots of fun groups. There's our ladies, there's different Python groups, places where you can meet like-minded people and other women who are interested in this. I also think it's a really good benefit to be a minority in a space, because that's a really big thing now. People want to hear diverse voices, get diverse inputs into things. So it's actually, I think, many times an advantage. You're able to really offer your perspective, and don't be shy. I think things come with experience, but everybody starts somewhere. So, you gotta make that first step. And
For sure. Go ahead.
yeah.
You had something else.
I just wanted to also add something about the ESG part. So I think it's just important to note ESG is a way to measure how companies are sustainable today, but you'll see high ESG companies that aren't what you would think, like Coca-Cola or Walmart or things like that. And that's because today's economy is not super sustainable. We need like way more than just data to create sustainability. We need those government incentives. We need, collective change towards that. And so I think that's important too, where, the age old thing, data is so powerful, but only if you really know where it fits in the system. So just my quick sense about ESG and data, because I know sometimes people can get frustrated because they're like, this is supposed to be sustainable, but it's just a reflection of where we are today, and we need to work on that. So
Yeah, it seems like it's a work in progress. So
definitely.
yeah. No, thank you for sharing that, and also your advice. I completely agree. I think we should always be learning and, finding new things, as you said, the wheels on the bike in the beginning too. But this was such a great conversation. Thank you so much, Rochelle, for joining. And this is all we have for you guys. Don't forget to check out Rochelle at VentureBeat's Transform World at the DSS Enterprise Data Science and Enterprise track on July 12th. And have a wonderful rest of the week.
Thanks for having me, Anna. Thank you.
Anytime.